In this episode, we put boats in strange places and we start kneeling in the cathedral. Traveling to Myken is a full day's journey from almost anywhere in Norway. Traveling by car can be nice, but my personal favorite is when you go by train. You have all the time in the world to sit down and just watch the scenery go by. You can read a book. You can basically just enjoy the journey in a much better way than you do in a car. Adding a bus trip onto the train journey, you can arrive fresh and rested, ready for the boat for the final leg out to the island. And as you probably know, you realize by now, it's not always as nice and calm as this particular day. Spring weather in Myken has been almost unusually nice this year. We have the odd squall and a bit of wind, of course, but almost no cancelled ferries and lots of sun. And with the nights now getting much lighter and the sun almost not setting at all, it feels almost like summer has come early. Nice weather has been welcome for a multitude of reasons. One of them being that it's now easier for us to start the process of slowly moving some of our whiskey casks from the overfilled distillery and into the new warehouse, the Whiskey Cathedral. It's going to take us quite a few years to fill up the entire cathedral, but at least it was good to see that the casks actually fit into the shelves. If they didn't, we would be in some real trouble. The harbour in Myken is nice and very sheltered, much more an issue in the winter of course than now in the spring. But sort of the downside to that is that the inlets in the north and the south, they are quite narrow and big boats can sometimes be a bit reluctant to go in here. Good seamen tend to know what they're doing though, so these guys had absolutely no problem getting into the harbor and actually keeping rock steady 1 meter off the dock without even having a line on shore. Pretty impressive. Living in Myken, it makes perfect sense, of course, to have a boat. And it makes just as much sense not to leave it on the water over winter. Sometimes the conditions are so hard that you basically wouldn't be able to save your boat even if you saw it going down. So this time of year, when spring has arrived, it's time to freshen up the boat, overhaul the engine, and try to get it back on the water again. To do that, you need some good weather. You need a high tide, most of all, because there's only one ramp which is really suitable for getting the boat down and into the water, and it's only usable at really high tide. Now, launching a boat this way isn't particularly difficult, but it always gets your heart racing a little bit. I have witnessed some of these vehicles basically sliding a bit too far into the ocean because of the slick surface with all the algae and stuff. May is a month full of public holidays in Norway, and that means it's often time to get the flagpole up and serviceable again. Just like the situation with the boats, it makes sense to take the flagpole down and get it out of the wind in the winter. Otherwise, you could easily end up with half a flagpole when May comes around. So we finally got a new paint, blackboard paint. This should be good. On its side. Heavy stuff, but good stuff. Gotta do this delicately. I want it to be nice. Okay. This could take a while. We have to make sure we cover the whole surface, and it's actually supposed to be 2 layers as well. So good thing we started early. I think this first layer is going to be a little bit rough no matter what we do, and we can smooth it out on the next one. That's the plan anyway. You know what they say about plans? I forgot. Second coat, of course. This is gonna work. It's gonna look good. Now I should probably have asked Dan and Kika how to do this properly. They're the ones with the experience. But then again, how hard can it be? This is gonna be fine. With the continued good weather, traffic to Myken also picks up, of course. And normally we tend to mostly see sailboats when private vessels come to visit, because motorboats sometimes find it a bit daunting going all the way out here. But every now and then, when the weather is nice, we get some adventurous tiny boat sailors coming out here. And perhaps the toughest one so far is Tom, who we now see here approaching Myken in his 15-foot boat, and is traveled all the way from Bergen down on the southwest coast of Norway on his way up to Bodø. And he decided, when the conditions were like this, it was actually safe also for him to go all the way out to Myken. Tom is a great guy, and he spent several weeks this spring going from Bergen and up, and every day he has done live streams on Facebook, and he has his own YouTube channel. I'll link that in the description. He just wants people to know about our coast and how nice it is and how beautiful it is, and make people appreciate it more. And at the same time show people that you don't really need a huge cabin cruiser to have fun on the sea. Not all boats in Myken will be spending this summer on the water. Here we see Irina, which is an old, in origin it's called a færing. Basically that means it's a boat for two people using 4 oars. And this is an old traditional boat from northern Norway, and she was built back in around 1880, I believe. And she's been in use in Myken for a long time, and actually she was on the water only a couple of years ago. But there's a lot of work involved in keeping these boats operational. So Irina has now reached a point where she is basically pensioned off. She will no longer be on the water, but she will get a really nice place to show herself off. She will be part of the decoration in our whisky cathedral. Here we have just started the quite arduous work of hoisting her up, getting her as close to the top rafters as possible, giving her basically the best place in the entire cathedral. And she's such a good-looking boat that I think she'll just be adding pleasure to everybody who comes by and sees her. We did manage to get Irina up to the proper height ourselves, but then it turned out we were extremely lucky that the same day an actual working traditional boat, of the same kind basically, just quite a bit larger, came sailing into Myken, all the way from down close to Trondheim, a bit further south than we are. And these boys and girls are from, I I guess you might call it a community college in English. And they have spent the year working with boats like this, and now they have sort of an end-of-year trip where they go north. And this is a boat, very traditional old boat, which has no engine on board. It only has oars or sails to get it moving. But the good thing for us, of course, is that these people know exactly how to treat these boats. So they came up, climbed to the top in the cathedral, and basically handled all the movement of the boat at height without even thinking twice about it, I think. Really good help, and it made the whole thing so much easier for us, so we're extremely happy that they came by. These boys and girls certainly knew what they were doing, so it's almost ironic that the name of their boat is Skårungen, which is a Norwegian word that means basically newbie, or the guy that is making his first ever trip with the grown-ups out toward the fishing grounds. Now, our newfound friends couldn't stay too long, unfortunately. It goes without saying that with a boat like this, you tend to go with the favorable wind whenever you can. One of the teachers on board told us that he had made the trip a couple of years earlier, and from Myken over to Lofoten, which is quite far, they were at one point without any wind at all a couple of years back, and they spent 25 hours rowing. So we could definitely not blame them for leaving when they did. But it was really both nostalgic and beautiful to watch this boat slowly gliding away from us through the sound and out into the open ocean again. Now, this time of year is quite possibly my favorite time of year in Myken. The days keep getting longer and longer, and the sun keeps setting further and further to the right every day, and quite soon it will stop setting at all. We'll have the midnight sun for quite a long period, and that's always so fabulous. In fact, it's gotten to the point where the fact that our passenger ferry, our only way off the island, leaves at 5 o'clock in the morning is no longer such a big drag as it used to be in the winter. Now when you get up that early, the sun is usually already up. You have a very nice view of your surroundings, and getting onto the boat on a nice calm day like this feels more like just the continuation of an adventure more than the end of one, which is sometimes the case in the winter. So leaving Myken for now, we know that we will quite soon be back again, and we're quite convinced that we're in for a really, really nice summer. So tag along, won't you?